In Turkey, hundreds of thousands rally in Istanbul, the city of Istanbul, which is the European part of Turkey, in support of the imprisoned mayor who wants to go against Erdogan in the next elections. Hundreds of thousands of protesters gathered in for a mass rally called the main opposition Republican People's Party, CHP, against the jailing of the city's mayor. He's Imamoglu, March 19, arrested on corruption charges, has sparked one of the biggest street demonstrations against President Erdogan. The opposition figure is believed to be in the presidential election, the front runner. CHP designated him as its candidate for the race despite his detention. And the party, rights groups, and Western governments all believe his arrest and continued detention are politically motivated. It's not just him that's been arrested. After him, the journalists reporting about all these things have been arrested as well. Now, what happens at the protests? Protesters gathered in Maltepe on the Asian side of Istanbul, waving Turkish flags and banners for the HCP Organized Freedom for Imamoglu rally. CHP leader Özgür Özel, who organized the rally, said 2.2 million people joined the protest, but it was not possible to independently confirm the figure. Özel said the charges against the mayor were baseless and politically motivated, and the CHP called for a boycott of media outlets, brands, and stores that it says are pro-Erdogan. Imamoglu, meanwhile, addressed the crowds in a readout letter calling for unity against his unlawful arrest. He said, "I'm not afraid at all because our dear nation is united." He wrote from his high security cell in Istanbul's Marmara prison, "We will not bow to tyranny. From my endless call, I cry out, the nation is great." With every move he makes against me, Erdogan shows that he is someone who runs away from elections and is afraid of his opponent, the letter continued. Some protesters were seen on board ferries crossing the Bosporus chanting, "Everywhere is Taksim, resistance is everywhere," the French AFP news agency reported, citing one of its correspondents. The chants are about the massive 2013 protest centered around the iconic Taksim Square. One unnamed CHP supporter told Reuters news agency, "The trend of the economy, of justice, of law, everything is getting worse. That is why we are here," he said. Crackdowns on journalists persistent amid protests as well. Hundreds of thousands of Turks nationwide have joined protests since Imamoglu was detained last week and then jailed pending trial on graft charges. The demonstrations have been mostly peaceful, but nearly 2,000 people have been detained. 2,000, can you imagine? Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya said this week 260 people have been jailed pending trial as of Thursday. Erdogan, who has dominated Turkish politics for over 2 decades, has dismissed the protests as a show and called on the CHP to stop provoking Turks. Authorities have, meanwhile, continued to crack down on media coverage of the protest movement. On Thursday, a Swedish journalist was detained upon arriving at the airport before being formally jailed on Friday. I mean, not even foreign journalists are allowed to report on what's going on there. Can you imagine? They're jailing them too. Joachim Medin had flown into the country to cover the protest. His employer, Dagens ETC, told AFP. The Swedish media outlet said his charges were not immediately clear, but Turkey's Anadolu agency, that's a news agency, said he was being held for, quote, insulting the president, end quote, Erdogan, and belonging to a, quote, terrorist organization, end quote. So you can see they're throwing any charges they want against anybody. Now, he says, "I know that these accusations are false, 100% false," Dagens ETC editor-in-chief Andreas Gustafsson wrote on X. Swedish Foreign Minister Maria Malmer Stenengard said Stockholm, Sweden was taking Medin's arrest seriously. So now it's an international affair. Some 13 Turkish journalists have been arrested in 5 days. 11 were freed Thursday, including AFP photographer Yasin Agdul, AFP's Associated France Press. So authorities also deported BBC correspondent Mark Lowen on the grounds he posed, quote, a threat to the public order, and quote, after holding him for 17 hours. And this is from Sean Sinico on Deutsche Welle, a German newspaper, on DNYUZ. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.